So I rebuilt it for myself using Blazor, and it's currently on a, not an old version, but it's currently on the the how do you put this? It's on the oldest version of .NET. .NET 8 is what it's on, and I want to upgrade it to .NET 9 because .NET 9 just came out this past fall. And so that's what I thought we could do today. And upgrading .NET projects is really easy. Basically, all we need to do is we just need to go into this each of our CS projects and just change the target framework. We'll rebuild the project. Hopefully, everything builds. If everything builds great, then we can also do some service upgrades, not service upgrades, some package updates, because I'm sure some of these packages can be upgraded to a newer version. So we can do some package upgrades, and then we'll also do the same thing for the test project. I have some tests that I use, very simple end-to-end tests using Playwright. So we can upgrade my test project too, because it's targeting .NET 8, and it's got some older packages in here. So that's what we're going to do first. It should be pretty simple. The famous last words there, but that's what we're going to try to do right now. We're going to try to upgrade my blog. So let's go software projects. My dog is bothering me again. He gets up every time I start streaming. He gets up on this corner of my couch. There's a couch right here to my left. He gets up on this corner of this couch and he starts licking himself, and it just drives me nuts. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll also, in addition to upgrading the blog, we'll also need to upgrade my GitHub actions, and I think that's it. I don't think I do have a Docker file, so I probably need to update the Docker file too. Yeah. Okay, so we'll take a look at each of these things. Yeah, no one cares, work harder. You like that? No one cares, work harder. That's my kind of motivation. My wife probably wouldn't find that very motivating, but I find it motivating. Okay, let's start with the blog. So the first thing we need to do is we just need to go to the csproj file. And all we're going to do here is we're just going and change this from .NET 8 to .NET 9. Write that back out. We'll do the same thing with my test project. This is .NET 9. And then let's create a new tab in PowerShell. And this is really, that's really the big, what's crazy is like, that's really, for most parts, if you have a relatively simple project, that's going to be like the, .NET build. Do I have the solution here? Right. .NET build. And hopefully everything still works. At least it still builds. Yeah, and for the most part, that's upgrading. That's upgrading to the latest version of .NET. One thing, okay, so that takes care of the projects. But what I want to do is I also want to go through and update the NuGet packages, and I think there isn't a great way to do this. There isn't a great, I don't know of a great way to do this. The command line, you just have to basically install the package. But the way I usually do this is I usually open VS Code. And I know I've been trying to use NeoVim, but VS Code has an extension for NuGet that's pretty nice. It's basically a GUI, very similar to like Visual Studio has, but it allows you to see the packages that are available to you, and then you can kind of upgrade things as you would like. So what we can click here is right now that it doesn't have any version info, but if I click load package versions, it'll tell me uh, basically if there are updates available. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that while I'm here too. So I'm going to update all my packages. And now they're updated. Now we can close out of Visual Studio. And all that did, I mean, that's a really nice GUI to do it, but all it did was if we open up LazyGit, I mean, it's nothing like special. All it did was it just changed the version numbers in the CS proj, right? So that was what it changed. There's no like magic happening behind the scenes. It's just changing versions. You could do this manually, right? You could do that manually. You could go to NuGet, see what the latest is for the framework that you're targeting. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and build it again. We'll just make sure it still builds and compiles. And I have a suite of tests too. So once we get this built and compiled, then we'll run my tests and make sure the tests pass. Cool. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and run my tests. So my tests, again, my tests aren't anything like crazy complex. So you can see there's 35 of them, and they're all just basically, most of them are end-to-end tests using Playwright. I think there's a few maybe unit tests, maybe integration tests, but oh, I have fluent assertions in here. Okay, all my tests pass. There's my report. Why am I seeing that? Oh, because this opened up in Chrome. I don't really use Chrome anymore. Okay, so this is my HTML report. Looks good. Probably have higher coverage, but it's good enough for what we're doing here. Oh, see, okay, this. So if you're not aware, Fluent Assertions changed their license recently. And so if you're using the newest version, which I think I upgraded to, you basically have to pay. You basically have to pay a license if it's for commercial use. Which to me it seems like always that seems to me personally, I'm not a lawyer, but that always seems like kind of like a gray area. Like what is commercial use? I don't know. So in those type of scenarios, I basically always hedge and like, okay, I'm not going to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my CS proj. I don't know why I say it like that. CS proj. I'm going to go back into my CS proj and I'm just going to downgrade this to 7.1. So 7.1 and older are free. You don't have to worry about it. The license is going to remain the way it is. It's just if you want to go to the newer version 8 and up. So for this project, I'll just keep Fluent Assertions. Maybe at some point I replace it. I haven't really found a good. I've heard some people talk about like Shouldly. Shouldly is a good alternative. There's also a completely new unit test framework called TUnit that's out. That might be interesting to try, but I'm not at this moment in time. We're just worried about upgrading the blog. So we'll write that out. Put all. Oh, I also need to upgrade my. I made some changes to my NeoVim config. Need to pull down those changes. Okay, so we can. Yeah. Write, quit all. And then .NET test again, and this time we shouldn't get that warning about the license. If this works, then if this is all, if the test passed, then this is the blog upgraded. I mean, that's basically, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but like that's the effort that you have to put in to upgrade from one .NET version to another. Granted, I understand this is a simple project. It's probably more complicated, especially if you, to me, upgrading seems much more complicated the bigger the jump is from the version of .NET or the version of .NET framework that you're on and a newer version you want to go to, right? So migrating from .NET framework 4.7 whatever to .NET 9 would probably be a lot of lift. But like if you just stay up with it every year, going from .NET 7 to .NET 8 to .NET 9, those incremental jumps seem very convenient and easy to execute. Okay, so we've upgraded the blog. However, we need to take care of my Docker file and my GitHub Actions because those all still are using an older version of .NET. So let's go take a look at the Docker file. I think I just need to change this to be 9 instead of 8. And this to be 9 instead of 8. Should be able to leave the rest of this alone. Now we'll go to my actions folder here. No, over here. So I have one for pull requests. And I just need to change the .NET version. 9. And I need to change the pass because these are now going to say .NET 9. .NET 9. These are purely, and these are the only reason for updating these is because these, so after when you're using Playwright in .NET, the first time you build your test project, it generates this PowerShell script, and then you use that PowerScript to actually install the Playwright dependencies because Playwright has some binary dependencies, basically the browsers that it uses to run your tests. You have to install those. So I have to specify the path to them in my workflow to make sure that I install those dependencies before I actually try to run the tests. Yeah, okay, so we got that, that works, cool. And now we'll do the other one, which is, that was pull request, now we need to update deploy. Or do we? I guess we don't probably need to, because all my deploy script does is basically it builds the Docker image, it tags it, pushes it to Docker Hub, and then it logs into my server, pulls down that same Docker image, and then runs the Docker image. I have a deploy script that basically does like a blue-green deployment. So I think that's gonna work, right? Famous last words. I always say I think that's everything. Let's do a quick search. Like let's just grep real quick. Net 8 or just 8.0. Yeah. Okay. I think we've covered all the places where it's at. So let's go ahead and write all this out. And I like to use GitHub CLI for a lot of my workflow. So now we're just gonna say, oh, we need to start a new branch too, don't we? Git check out the Stephen Freeborn because so many other people work on this with me. Stephen Freeborn feature, or maybe chore. Let's call it chore. Upgrade. Well, it's a feature. I mean, there's stuff to be gained from it. Uh, Grade. Actually, hold on, real quick before we do that. Well, we can check that. We can get a branch. Get check out B to net net that up. Okay, before I do that, I just want to make sure I run source. Whoops, project source log. I just want to make. I mean, you should after you make changes, you should run your app and make sure at least functions at the bare minimum. Okay, and then let's load a post. Looks good. Um, okay, yeah. So it looks like everything's working okay. Lazy Git. I don't know if you guys. I got turned on to this application called Lazy Git from the same guy that I watched the NeoVim courses of Typecraft. And it's pretty cool. So we're just gonna commit this. Commit for use.net 9 for workflow. Let's see. Then we could probably we can probably see the feature upgrade to net 9 and upgrade that. And then we should be able to tab here and then shift push. That pushes to our remote. Okay. Then get status. It's clean. Okay, so now we'll open up a new PR. So GHPR create feature upgrade to .NET 9. And I have an issue for this. I have an issue. GH issue list. Number 20. Yeah, so this closes. And you may not be familiar with it, but by referencing GitHub, by referencing this number here in my pull request body, it will link my pull request to that issue that I have open. And then when the pull request gets merged, it'll actually close that issue automatically. It's a really nice workflow that GitHub has. And now GHPR checks -- watch. And now we'll just let my workflow run. So hopefully all the changes I made, it should run. It should test, and yeah, it'll be good. I'm always so impressed with the work that goes in by the .NET team to make this process. Because I've done this now, I don't know, I've done this a handful of times over a variety of applications, APIs, console apps, just upgrading incrementally from granted, I didn't go through the pain of going from a framework app to a core app, or from .NET Core 2 to Core 3. I from what I understand, based on listening to people, there was some painful years in there when upgrading was really difficult. But basically, most of the stuff I've built and worked on has been .NET 6 and newer, and doing upgrades from across 6, 7, 8, 9 has been painless for me. and I know I'm not a representative sample, but I'm always impressed by the ease of. I mean, if you've used Next.js, going from 13 to 14 was painful, and they just released 15, and I don't know what the upgrade path looks like from that, but that's all to say that if you have gone through upgrades of things that were painful or were difficult, it's just you come to appreciate when that isn't the case for something else. I feel like this check is taking too long. What do you think? Did I miss something? I may have missed something. Who knows? I should probably keep a list of what I did. I should probably update that issue with like what I did. There we go. It passed. Okay. Yeah, let's go in here and like for my own posterity, let's update this issue with what I did. Oh, I thank you, former me. So I had already thought of that. So I upgraded the projects, I upgraded the Docker file, and I upgraded my workflows. So now we should be able to say dh pr merge, create a merge commit, delete the branch. Oh, now we wait. Oh, I guess we don't have to wait. We can actually watch this thing deploy. Like I said, my deploy process is very simple. It builds and pushes to my Docker hub, and I use really simple versioning. I don't even version the blog project like the CS proj. I just do really simple like date time versioning of the image, uh, because it's super simplistic, but it works for what I'm doing. Um, and then once it builds the image, pushes that up to Docker Hub, I just log into my server. I drop down into the server into a shell, uh, pull that image down and run it, and stop the old image that is running on the server. I have a whole blog post too of how I built this. If you actually go to my blog, I'll let this deploy first. But if you go to my blog, I have a whole blog post on uh, building the Markdown blog, like how I built it with Blazor, and then also how I set it up to deploy. Um, there we go. We navigate over. It should be live. Nice. I need to have a. I need to add like a powered by, don't I? Wouldn't that be cool to have like a little powered by .net, whatever? Let's add that as an issue. Add powered by .net version. Because that would be kind of cool to see. It would be cool to be able to see what version of .NET the blog is running. Yeah. Okay. So that's upgrading my blog upgrading my blog from .NET 8 to .NET 9. Granted, my blog is relatively simple, but it kind of illustrates the process and how convenient and easy it is to actually do it. And then if you're curious more about the blog, just in general, like how it's built, how it's deployed, that sort of thing, I did write this post back in April. Oh wow, I built this back in April. Wow, I built this not at the end of last year, but at the beginning, I guess. That talks to, man, time flies. but just basically talks through like the inspiration of where I built it, how I figured it out, using Blazor to do it, the different packages I use, the testing, and then the deployment parts in here too. And like how I'm doing the code snippet highlighting, that's part of it. Yeah, so if you're interested, you want to build something similar, there's kind of a how-to here, and then the repo is also linked in that blog post.